Okay, in this video I wanted to show you how you could put numbers in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. Some words you need to watch out for whenever you're doing these. A lot of times they ask you like fastest to slowest, thickest to thinnest, but the most common is smallest to largest, or least to greatest or greatest to least. What's interesting is most kids can do this pretty well. The problem is that when on a question it'll ask you greatest to least, so otherwise they want the biggest number first to the smallest. A lot of kids will put the smallest number into the largest. So be very careful here. All right, there are many strategies doing this. This one, they're all decimals or whole numbers, or really these look like they're all rational numbers, which they are. And so what I like to do is I like to put them in order and put them all in decimal form. And so, I mean order, I mean just lay them out. So I'm going to put each of them in decimal form. And I like to do them vertically. I mean, you can do it many ways. You get to use a calculator too if you need to, but I'm going to list them up vertically. So I'm going to say 8 1/3. All right, 8.01, -8, -8.1, and then -8 3/8. All right, so how do we do this? First thing is you got to figure out what 8 1/3 is as a fraction. And the most common in the old method is just divide 3 into a dollar. That's really it. You put a decimal and 2 zeros. And then when you start doing your math, you start realizing, put my decimal up here, this comes up here. This is a repeating decimal. And nowadays, a lot of kids use a calculator, so you could just put 1/3 in there and you get your answer. So really this is 8 point, let me get my decimal right, 3 repeating. So we know that's 8.33. Now I better not put I'm going to put an arrow here so it doesn't look like subtract. The next one's already in decimal form, so I'm going to line up my decimals. This one is a -8. That's really important. And we're going to put 0, 0 in here just so we kind of know that that is still. I like to make all my decimals the same place value. This is a -8. 1, and I'm putting a 0 there because there's only like 10 cents there. And this one is another -8, but this time we have 3/8, and so 3 goes into 8. Whoops, that's not correct. Let's make sure we know how to do this. What we do is whenever you have a fraction, right, the top goes inside the box. Whatever's on the bottom, the denominator, goes outside the box. And so it really goes like this. A lot of kids think you just divide 3 into the smaller number into the bigger number, and that's not correct. So in this case, you notice the top fraction goes inside the box. The bottom, the denominator, goes outside the box. And so we'll just bring up our decimal and divide 8 into that. We know 8 goes into 3 0 times. 8 goes into 33 times. Bring down my 0, then 7, that's 56. And then we're going to add another 0 because it looks like it'll come out even, so it's 3.75. Alright, so I have converted everything into a decimal form. So here's what we're going to do now. What we're going to do now is we are going to find out which ones we're looking for. In this problem, let's take the biggest number first. Okay? Let's just say greatest to least, or since that's greatest to least. Alright, so we're going to take the biggest number first. We know it's not a negative number. Negative numbers are not the biggest. And so I'm looking at 8.3 and 8.01 as my numbers here. So it looks like these numbers here, and I'm just going to kind of like show you these numbers here are going to be my numbers that I need to look at. Alright, so I have 8.3 and I have 8.0. Think of it as money, $8.33 or $8.01. Which one's bigger? Well, you should have said, of course you know, it should be 8.33. So we're just going to put 8 1/3 is my first number. We're going greatest to least. So that means my next number is 8.01. Now my next group of numbers, alright, my next group of numbers is I'm looking for the next smallest, and they're all negative. See these? These are all negative. And so I can look at which one's the biggest. Now remember, negative numbers, the bigger they are, the smaller they are. Okay, so otherwise, the further down, think of a number line. Okay, and this is 0. The further I go this way in negative numbers, the bigger they get. And I want to find out which of these numbers I have over here is the farthest away from 0. All right, so we're looking for which one is the farthest away from 0. So that means the negative number with the biggest value on it. All right, and so they're both all 8, if you can see. Look at the second one. It looks like negative 8.3 is bigger than the other two. So that will be my next number. We'll put a negative here and put negative 8 and 3/8. So we know that guy's good. Then the next one's going to be negative 8.1, and then our last one will be, of course, negative 8. And so this is our numbers in order from greatest to least. Of course, if we were going to least to greatest, they would be reversed. Okay, so what what I've done now is added another little fun one. This one has rational numbers in it, along with percents, fractions, and decimals. And so what we can do is we're going to try to compare what each of these are. All right, again, I like to line them up like I told you before. I like to line them up so I can see them a little bit better and put them all in decimal form. So I have the square root of 5. I have 2.3%. I need to make sure my little decimal shows up. I have 0.21 as a decimal. Remember, it's a 0. And then I have 1/5 as a fraction. All right, so let's put them all into decimal form. All right, so if I know my perfect square is 2 times 2 is 4 and 3 times 3 is 9, I know this is going to be about a 2 point, and the 4 is really close to 5, so it's going to be about 2.1 or 2.2, so I know that for sure. We could always put it in a graphing calculator to make sure exactly what it is. And since you're taking, depends on what kind of testing you're taking, you can use this as a, you can use a calculator. Okay, so actually the square root of 5 is 2.23. Now I used a calculator to do that, but you could estimate, you know it's going to be between 2 and 3. All right, we're changing our percent into a decimal. All right, so remember when we have a percent, the two little circles here are good clues to help you remember that you're going. You got to move it 2 places, and since we're going to move it 2 places, so we're going to move it 2 places. Now, I always pretend like a little hill here. You see the little hill? That percent is telling me which way to go. I'm not going to the right because if I'm on top of that little hill there, which way am I going to fall? I'm going to go directly straight down like this. So I'm going to go 1, 2 places. All right. Another way you could do it is you could say 2.3. This is in the 10th place, and you put it all over 10 and do it that way. But I like to do the simple move the decimal over method. All right. So here we go. I have 2.3, and I'm just going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So my answer is 0.23. All right. The other one here is already in decimal form. It's 0.21. Now, 1/5, okay, we talked about this before, 1/5, you remember this goes inside the box, this goes outside the box. So 5 goes into $1, and you should figure that's about 20 cents. And again, like I said, I always like to think of it as money. All right, so what's my, we're doing least to greatest, so I'm looking for the smallest number. So 1/5 is my smallest number. Then it looks like 0.21 is my second smallest number. Then 2.3% is my third smallest number. Then my square root of 5 is my largest number of all of them. And I'll erase this. So these are my answers, all right, for this situation.